So my name is Matt Doris. I work for Etsy, which is the global online marketplace for independent creative businesses. And I lead the team that is focused on building the seller side of our marketplace around the world. It's an interesting one with the sharing economy because I think that Etsy is very much part of a similar phenomenon in that it's very much around the internet and the evolution of e-commerce facilitating businesses that may not have been possible before. Interestingly, I would differentiate Etsy a little bit from businesses that are traditionally referred to as sharing economy businesses, primarily because Etsy is all about people, micro entrepreneurs who have actually created a product or a piece of art or designed some clothing or whatever it happens to be. They've handmade a product and then they sell that on. So in many ways, it's more of a traditional marketplace than something like Airbnb or a marketplace that is more about monetizing an existing asset. For us, it's really been amazing to see the growth of our communities and how Etsy has become more than a marketplace and really a place where creative people can connect. We were founded in 2005 in Brooklyn. For a while, quite a US-centric business, but we now have a very international outlook and we're growing all over the world. The UK is one of our fastest growing markets. But as I said, what we've seen is that in addition to using Etsy as a platform on which to sell their products, creative people are also using it as a platform to connect to one another. So many of these people will be one-man shows working at home working on their own at home, and they will, excuse me, they will often find themselves in kind of a solitary experience. So they use Etsy as a means to identify other people who are going through or who are working on similar businesses, doing similar things, and it becomes a creative outlet, an outlet for support, moral support, and it also becomes a place where they can really kind of build a business network and learn from each other around marketing skills, around improving their customer service, any kind of business skill. Yes, so in December we, here in London, we ran Etsy House, which was one of our first forays into the world of kind of pop-ups or kind of a real world shopping experience. Certainly here in the UK, it was one of the first for us. It was a beautiful house-themed experience that took place in Covent Garden over the course of 3 days. It was a phenomenal success. We had around 6,000 visitors, 120 Etsy sellers had the opportunity to sell their wares there. So it obviously also opened up new channels, new opportunities for exposure for them. And it's something that I think that we want to continue to think about, and we'll build on that idea this year. In terms of the card reader, we launched an Etsy card reader in the US last year. It actually wasn't used at Etsy House. It's currently a US only product, but it is something that in the future we may consider launching here in the UK as well, as we are always looking to find ways to help our sellers to open up new channels. This year, one of the things that we really want to do is to build on the Etsy House phenomenon to actually empower our sellers potentially to run their own pop-ups. So we have what we call Etsy teams, which are groups of Etsy community members who congregate all over the UK. There's one in Brighton, there's one in Leeds, there's one in Manchester, there are several here in London. They often are working together in order to co-market their businesses. And so we feel that helping them to actually run their own pop-ups and to spread to really kind of promote their businesses, not just in London, but around the UK, is a really great way to kind of evolve the Etsy House idea. Well, I think certainly the biggest opportunities for us are around growth in international markets. So we, as I said, the UK is now one of our fastest growing markets, and we have operations in France, in Germany, and in Australia and Canada. So we're now starting to think about, what are the next markets that we're going to break into? Where might we set up operations? So that's certainly an interesting challenge to have, an interesting opportunity. What I really hope to see is, and what we've seen time and again, is the evolution of this kind of new type of entrepreneur. So previously, even just a few years ago, if you wanted to set up a business, you needed a certain amount of capital, you needed a certain amount of backing in order to be able to get your idea out there. Now with platforms like Etsy and other similar platforms, you can, with very little capital, you can go online, potentially even just spending a few hours a week on your business to begin with, test it out, and then grow it into something that becomes potentially your full-time job very quickly. So I think that those utilizing online platforms in order to very efficiently and cheaply gain access to wide audiences is, I think, really changing the way people think about business. And I think that's really the future of marketplaces.